With the Steam Next Fest right on our doorstep, today seemed like a perfect time to check out Fata Deum, the new demo of the new God game inspired by the classics like Populous and Black and White. Fata Deum puts us in the role of a god as we get this attempt to gain followers while battling against the quote god next door for influence over the people who fill these little villages in this wonderful world. This is the Fata Deum demo. My name is JumboPixel. Today we're going to jump in and check it out. I'm going to show you and tell you everything that you need to know about the demo and give you my experience and review of this early access to Fata Deum. A huge shout out to Hooded Horse for giving me an early access code to check out this demo. However, I'm told it is available to everybody until at least the end of the Steam Next Fest on February 28. Without any further ado, let's jump in and talk Fata Deum. In the background of this video, as I say, you're watching some footage from the demo version of this game, which essentially gave me a week of in-game time, 7 days, to play through a tutorial if I wanted to. Fata Deum is, as I say, a god game, and here you can see it's set in a fairly pretty world. A relatively small one, at least in this demo case here. You can see the map here with all of the settlements. My objectives are in the top right, and down the bottom right you can see my mana pool. This is essentially my action points, what I can spend to do things and interact with the world around me. The idea, as I mentioned in the introduction, is to try and bring followers into my, I was going to say religion, but of course that's not quite right, but it captures it good enough. I am a god, an almighty deity, and there's another one in this world as well, a benevolent god of violence. My idea and my mission is to jump into these settlements and using my actions, you can see here I can infuse fear or spread love. These actions are called wonders, and their ability and their power, not to delve too technical here at the start of this video, is informed by attitude, distance, and belief of your settlers, of the people who live within these villages. So, what is the point of Fata Deum then? Well, as I teased at the start, it is essentially a sandboxy god game about being good or bad. In this game, where you not only focus on building the settlements that you can see here, noting that they have their own resources, they're all sort of going about their own thing, living their daily lives, you can influence the citizens within them, building more followers, giving you more power to wield. As you manage that mana in the bottom right to manipulate your settlements and citizens, devotees, and even, of course, you can pause and play time itself. You are, of course, the god of this world. You'll amass even more power, and the power will allow you to pick up even more unearthly feats, quote unquote, to yield. Power like striking down citizens with a bolt of lightning, for example. As you move through the game, you're essentially tasked with this ultimate question. Will you convince or conquer? During the daytime, and you will see a day-night cycle throughout this footage, your task is to influence mortals. You can bless them and inspire them to be good and to work, or as I say, strike fear into their hearts through something like terrifying visions, for example. But do take care, because this is a living world. You're not just a god presiding over SimCity, but the townfolk themselves do have free will. And you'll notice throughout this footage and this gameplay, they each have their own health, their own energy, their own jobs. They're going and living their own lives. And that is fundamentally important to the overall ethos of this game. Will we frighten or foster? Will we be a good god or a benevolent being? Essentially, would you like to be a tyrant, ruling with debauchery and blood? Would you like to raise an army and sacrifice your mortals to summon demons? Or you could be the fun side, festivities, love, no qualms, just good times in your world. It is a living world, as I say, and as you grow your influence over the people and over the settlements, you'll begin to shape the world around you. Now, within the confined constraints of this demo, as you can see here as I look through and sort of learn the different mechanics that it's teaching me on this Taros screen, I was somewhat limited in how far I could play. Of course, it is a 7-day demo. demo, but I would encourage you to jump in to the demo and the full version to see exactly what it can offer. But let's jump back and talk more about that living world element, because it is, as we can see, a glorious world. I think because you can interact with each sort of citizen within a settlement like Tartos here, and each one is providing its own resources, its own structure, while also at that wider level here, as I zoom out, you can see enemy god versus me, and how we're trying to fight over influence of the people, and some of them are just believing in the goodwill of nature as well. So there's a third sort of neutral party at play here, as the gods vie for influence over the relatively simple people living in these villages. It's a very interesting world, and as I understand it, in the full sort of story of the campaign mode, there will be a story where you play as a young god, fighting for glory, of course, determining how exactly you want to shape the world. And as I understand it in the full game, there's loads more interactions as well with individual citizens, with settlements, and that kind of thing. This is, of course, just as a reminder again, a relatively limited and early access demo version of this game. And I think that's a good thing to keep in mind as we move through into the final section here. Let me give you my sort of perspectives and opinion here. We're going to step back from what the gameplay actually does and talk more about how it performed and what I think of it. Although it's important to note that, as I say, this is a demo version, so let's talk. Firstly, I think that the interactions in the menus, like this one here, as we're zooming in and looking at this individual little dude living in a settlement, were all very good. I found everything worked well. It was relatively intuitive. The only thing that I struggled with a little bit, and you might have seen it throughout the gameplay, was the camera controls. However, an important note, I'm not really used to playing games with these sorts of camera controls, so I was a little rusty and out of date. I'd be curious to know, actually, if you picked this up. Let me know in the comments below how you found the camera controls, because I just found them slightly clunkier for what I was used to. That's not really super relevant, though, to the overall performance of the game, and I have to say, the demo version performed very well. I didn't have any issues, and looking through the minimum system requirements, what they're recommending, it looks like most systems should be able to run this game fairly well. Although, of course, as a sandbox god game, it could potentially throw a lot at us as we move through the actual story. I'm excited to see, actually, just how the full version of this game will play out. It's important also to note, as we're talking about the full version of this game, that it is scheduled for release this year, 2022, although we don't have a specific release date. Another thing that I'd like to mention here about the more sort of technical performance aspects of the game is who's actually making it and publishing it. It's being developed by 42 Bits Entertainment, and crucially, it's being published by Hooded Horse, a franchise, publisher rather, that you've probably heard me talk about before on this channel, because they've got some pretty other exciting games that they're publishing coming out this year as well, including Falling Frontier, Terra Invicta, and Alliance of Sacred Sons. So they're a publisher who's producing a lot of really interesting strategy, and as you can see here, simulation games as well. Two categories that go hand in hand really well, I think. My final thoughts here to reflect on this god game experience, I think it's a very enjoyable one. I think Hooded Horse are a publisher to watch, and I think that the demo performs well enough that anybody should be able to pick it up and give it a go. As it's a god game, you could pick it up and play it for 10 minutes or 10 hours and probably still enjoy it. Granted, the demo is a little bit limited in the overall hours you'll be able to put in. Thank you very much for watching this video today. My name is JumboPixel. If you haven't joined us on the channel before, I would really appreciate a like or a subscribe. Stay tuned for more coverage, and I'll see you next time.